I'm sorry.
Got some slideshow difficulties. So starting with greenhouse gases, like you mentioned, two of the top ones are carbon dioxide and methane. And carbon dioxide is released from burning fossil fuels, such as oil, coal, natural gas, things like that. And so I'm just going to briefly go to this slide so you can look at, this is a graph over 800,000 years to today, and it shows the atmospheric carbon dioxide levels, which if you can see, the white dotted line is the 1950 level. And can anyone tell me what's special about 1950 in human history?
What's happening in 1950? What did you say? The first car came out in 1950. Probably came out before. More affordable cars, okay. More air travel, okay. Population, baby boomers, okay, good. All these are good, yep. Anybody else? The corner that I ignore over here, anyway. Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, you all are spot on. So like the Industrial Revolution has already started, but this is a point where it picks up kind of again. Like you said, more air travel, more cars, all of this technology that uses especially fossil fuels that release carbon into the air. So if you look at that graph, you can see that for like 800,000 years, those levels never went above that dotted line of the 1950s, but now you can see that it's like double over that line on the graph, showing how carbon levels contribute to climate change. And as someone also pointed out, methane is another big greenhouse gas, which is released from agriculture. So a lot of animal farms, the manure can give off methane, as well as, you might not know this, cow farts are a huge contributor to climate change because cows release a lot of methane from their digestive system. As well as landfills are another big one because as all of that garbage and stuff, as it begins to break down underneath the landfill, the bacteria give off methane, and that either goes into the atmosphere or it's burned, which still leaves some greenhouse gases to escape. And then again, with agriculture, you have nitrous oxides, which come from fertilizer runoff because there's lots of nitrogen in fertilizer, as well as the nitrogen in manure. And then lastly, water vapor too, even though it's important to have in the atmosphere for like the carbon cycle and plants, it also can be increased through human irrigation because some of the water will evaporate as it comes out of irrigators and go into the atmosphere.
So one of the causes of climate change is deforestation and ecosystem removal. So a big one is deforestation, as you may know, which is removing forests. And this is often for purposes of agriculture, human development, as well as the use of trees for timber. So trees are really good at sequestering carbon, which is their ecosystem service. But when trees are cut down for agriculture or human use, that ecosystem service is also removed. Draining wetlands for agriculture or human development also takes away their ecosystem service of sequestering carbon and other greenhouse gases. And deforestation and wetland drainage is something that you can see locally. So driving to school, you probably see a lot of places that were once wetlands that were drained, and a lot of forest that was once removed for agricultural purposes.
So going more deeply into how agriculture contributes to climate change, one of the main reasons is a lot of big agriculture uses fossil fuels to run all of the machinery, from tractors on the farm to like the machinery in factories that are going to like package the foods and ship them out to stores. And then along with that, getting food to stores, there's a lot of transportation of food across large distances, which only uses fossil fuels on like airplanes and big cargo ships. So if you look at the major shipping routes to Florida, the map on the bottom right, you can see that there are like foods going from Florida out to Japan, or there's foods coming from Europe to Florida. So practically going all the way around the globe, which is thousands of miles, and that's a lot of fossil fuels to move that food around. And then back on like the farms themselves, some active parts of tilling the soil contributes to climate change because when the soils get overturned, they're exposed to the air and the carbon can escape into the atmosphere. And like Kayla mentioned, draining wetlands is not good for climate change, as well as mentioned before, nitrous oxides and methanes from, again, those cows and their cow farts.
All right, so can we name some of the climate change impacts, like the main ones?
Give me one, Emma. Forest fires. Okay.
And forest fires. Saw a lot of them this past year.
What's that? Drought,
Mm-hmm.
tsunamis, ice caps melting, volcanoes. What about volcanoes? They're kind of, you're just naming things. Yeah.
Now, volcanoes can contribute greenhouse gases to the atmosphere,
can
but it
contribute.
wouldn't be an impact.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
But good connection.
Yeah. Any others? What's that? What'd you say, Morgan? Okay. Yeah. Warm. Yeah. Temperature rise. Yeah. Sure.
Mhm.
Severe weather.
Mhm.
I got an ornery one in here. He's talking about nuking volcanoes. All right, cool. One last call? Anybody else?
Sorry.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. So yeah, you all mentioned a lot of these. So we're going to be going into these categories of climate change impacts. We're going to be talking about water, energy, transportation, wildlife and ecosystems, agriculture, and human health. So can anyone name any ways climate change can impact water?
We heard a few earlier.
Yeah, say it again there, girl. Yeah. Droughts,
Mm-hmm.
floods,
Floods.
earthquakes, yeah, that create, yeah.
Great.
Okay, what's something else in water that causes swirling Coriolis of hurricanes, right? Okay. Well, tsunami is like right, like, but it's caused by an earthquake. So an earthquake underwater causes that. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, thanks for all those great examples. So part of the reason climate change causes droughts is with the increased temperatures, a lot of ecosystems can be vulnerable to desertification, which is basically the process of an ecosystem becoming like a desert, which often happens when there's big climatic changes already happening and human activities such as removing the native vegetation that helps stabilize that environment or having big, heavy agriculture in an already very vulnerable ecosystem can push it to become a desert. Along with that, it can become a desert because of changes to the rainy seasons, might become unpredictable, which it might become really dry in some parts of the year and then suddenly have lots of rain and floods in other parts of the year, which can make it practically impossible to farm because you don't know when to plant your seeds because you don't know when the rains are going to come. So for the flooding part of that, some of the issues, you'd think having lots of water would be really good, but sometimes the floodwaters will come in and they can bring contaminants and pollution because they might spill into a factory and maybe break something, so pollutants will be released. As well as floodwaters will carry soil, so they'll pick up silt and sediment and push that around, which can be bad for a lot of aquatic creatures like fish can't do well in heavily sedimented waters. And then of course, both these two contaminants can impact the water quality for humans, making the water unsafe to drink. So now can anyone tell me how climate change will impact our energy?
There's an earthquake that creates a tsunami that is immune to the power plant.
Oh, there we go. That was a good one. I don't know if you heard that. An earthquake that creates a tsunami that destroys a nuclear power plant.
Ooh, yeah.
That is a good connection.
Mm-hmm.
Good, nice job. Look at you, smart one. Oh my gosh. Wow. All right, what else? How else could it impact our energy? This would directly relate to some of the questions that I asked you.
Well, it can cause like a decrease in your yield, which means you can't raise ethanol.
Okay.
In order to make ethanol.
Okay, decrease in yield of corn, so you can't make ethanol used for.
Rely more heavily on fossil
Okay, so rely more heavily on fossil fuels. That's a big one. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Okay, maybe using fossil fuels that create acid rain that could hurt the crops. Good. Not that kind of acid. Um, you're missing a big one. Something about peak energy that we talked about. Well, I'll let them talk. I'll let them talk, and then we'll come back to that.
Yeah, you all drew like really good connections between how climate change would impact energy sources. But we're just going to talk a little bit about how, like, because fossil fuels are part of the natural Earth cycles, and since the creation of fossil fuels happens over millions of years when like dead plants or dead animals go under the earth and the pressure puts them into like coal deposits, for example, that means that if we depend on one single energy source, we can have power outages, like you said, if there's a tsunami that like destroys a nuclear power site or even other types of power plants, we can have big power outages. Just like in Texas in February, their natural gas pipes froze. So a lot of people were without electricity because the natural gas couldn't flow to their houses. And so this is kind of tied into like the overconsumption of fossil fuels because they're so cheap right now, because the government has a lot of federal subsidies where they give millions of dollars to fossil fuel companies in order to bring down that price down. But this leads to overconsumption, and this dependency on just a few fossil fuel resources means that we're not very resilient for like extreme weather events that climate change is causing.
Mm-hmm. And can anyone give me a few ways that agriculture is impacted by climate change? So we already went through a little bit of this.
Okay, you guys got kind of an ethanol thing, but what else? Drought, okay. Floods. Good job looking at the pictures.
Yeah, we'll give you guys some clues.
What's that? What else you got? Cornfields would become popcorn. Yeah, I like that. I've never seen that, but that'd be amazing, right? That'd be really hot. I want to see that day, but I don't want to do it because of climate change. But cool. All right, any others? Any last others?
Yeah, you all pretty much hit the nail on the head with this one. So like we've been talking about, agriculture depends highly on climate and weather conditions. So these changes like increased temperatures, droughts, storms, diseases that climate change increases challenges the production of agriculture. So climate change makes food really limited.
Can you tell me real quickly what you meant by diseases there?
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So part of climate change with like more of the earth becoming warmer means that a lot of pests who bring disease. So for example, a lot of non-native like insects that give plants diseases can spread more because there's not like the cold season to kind of knock them back to let the plants have a chance to recover. So if more plants are more susceptible to like the diseases that bugs carry, then more of the crops can die, so they never actually get to be made into food for humans to eat, for example. If that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much.
All right, and now we'll be talking about ecosystems. So can anyone name some ways that ecosystems are impacted by climate change?
Okay, so yeah, we'll go with polar bears and ice melt. So what happens to polar bears? Okay, but why do they die? Do you know why they die? Okay, all right, so there's no ice for them to do what though? What do they do with the ice? Eating the ice? They live on the ice, okay, sure. Okay, so what's that? Okay, maybe their food comes from. Okay, something else. Like if they're not on the ice, what are they doing? Swimming. Okay. What happens if they don't have a place to go? All right, sure. Okay, all right. Okay, maybe they'll blend in. Okay, so maybe they can become food for something else. Does anything eat a polar bear? Maybe we should look at that. Okay, what else? What else we got? We got polar bears. Yeah, Addison. Migration seasons are impacted. Yes. Okay, pollute the water for sure. Fish ecosystem.
Raises the water temperature.
Okay, raises the water temperature, right? Okay.
There's no ice that can get away from the sharks.
No ice can't get away from the sharks. Yeah. Okay, biodiversity will be changed. Okay, what causes this coral bleaching? You guys should know
It's
this.
from the.
Come on. Carbon, right? Carbon sink of the ocean,
It's
right?
Like the one thing that like the
Yeah.
bicarbonate.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Oh my gosh. Yes, great job. Great job. Okay, diatoms die. Okay, we're all hyped up on diatoms right now. Great. Okay, good job. Good job.
Yeah, you guys have some great examples. So sea level rising, this happens because the ice caps are melting. So in that picture, you can see the polar bear on top of some melting ice. And so the reason that polar bears are threatened by this, by melting ice, is because they don't have the ice to hunt on. So they can't get out into deeper waters where their prey is. So they end up starving a lot of the times. Also, ocean acidification. So what happens is because of the increased carbon in the atmosphere, the ocean absorbs a lot of that. So the ocean absorbs 30% of the carbon in the atmosphere. And because of this, carbonate is reduced. So carbonate is a building block for a lot of marine organisms that have like hard shells and skeletons. So because of that reduction, they can't really build their shells and skeletons. And marine animals cannot adapt fast enough to keep up with the decrease in carbonate. So historically, organisms in the ocean evolved over time with more stable levels of carbonate. But yeah, the quick reduction in this because of climate change is threatening those animals. Also, like Jamie talked about, desertification impacts ecosystems, as well as someone had mentioned the loss of biodiversity. So this affects the timing of migrations, like in the picture of the monarchs. Monarchs have trouble and are endangered because their migration patterns are off due to like flowering seasons. So a lot of people are creating lawns and other things that decrease their food source. So it's hard for them to migrate all from California to Mexico. Also, ecosystems are damaged, and this leads to loss of ecosystem services such as water quality, hunting, recreation, and pollinators. So can anyone name some ways that human health is impacted by climate change?
Okay, human health impacts. Okay, yeah, air pollution, sure. So breathing, respiratory problems, huge. Name one respiratory problem. Asthma, what else?
Lung cancer.
Lung cancer, sure, what else? True, okay. Okay, probably not. Well, I mean, it could be, yeah, more people. Okay, what about this, that little critter over there in the sign?
Malaria.
Malaria, okay, but how does climate change?
Because it makes, because they don't die out.
Oh yeah, they don't die out. Okay, great. Any others? What do you think? Forest fires destroy what?
Your home.
Okay, all right. Could kill you, right? The trees, ashes on the ground, yeah. Everywhere, okay. UPS guys out to kill you. Okay, I like that. That's good. So the climate change like changes UPS, turns them into zombie killers.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good example. There you go. Great.
Yeah. So increased temperatures can lead to heat stress and eventually death. Also, reduced water quality leads to more waterborne diseases. And like you guys answered, increased air pollution from burning fossil fuels, so that creates smog, as well as air pollution from fires and such, as well as more insect and rodent transmitted diseases like malaria, and you touched on that. Yeah, and mosquitoes and rodents are also increased in the because of climate change. So, for example, there's going to be more stagnant water and like things like floods. So there's more habitat for mosquitoes to repopulate, and also extreme weather events such as fires and hurricanes.
Hold on a second. You didn't talk about zombie killers.
Well, that would maybe be the next great dystopian novel.
Okay, all right. Okay, got it.
So just looking at the United States, the cost of climate change, if you lump like everything together, so far it's been $1 billion to state and local economies, like spread throughout the United States. And you can look at the map to see like which places are being hit the hardest, such as especially the southern part of the United States. And part of this is because since 2005, we've had to spend around $450 billion spent on disaster assistance for things like flooding and hurricanes, extreme weather events like those. And according to the World Health Organization, they expect that starting in 2030 and going through 2050, those years, there's going to be approximately 250,000 human deaths per year starting in 2030. And that's just from things like malnutrition, increased malaria, diarrhea, like the actual just dying of heat stress. So that's not even counting potential national disasters like more earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, things like that. So these are pretty like heavy, like deep topics that we're discussing, but there's also lots of room for hope and like new innovations, new ideas, new communities working together. So we're curious what you all think are some renewable energy solutions for reducing our current dependence on fossil fuels.
Okay, hydrogen cars. Got ya. What else you got? Solar panels. You think solar's the way? By the way, the cost is coming down. It's crazy. I don't know if you guys noticed that on the questions, but that's nuts, right? Okay. What else? Nuclear. Okay. Not necessarily renewable, but definitely could change climate change, right? Right. I mean, we could run out of uranium or thorium. There's a lot out there, but right. Yeah, like that's definitely an option. Yeah.
What was that battery that was the question?
Oh yeah, that vanadium or that.
Vanadium?
Yeah. We'll talk more about that later, but yeah, there's maybe battery technology or just technology in general. Maybe we don't know. Wind. Yeah. Gasoline. That'd be a fossil fuel, right? Okay, those are some good ones.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So that's like kind of the like what energy we're consuming part of the solutions, but we're curious what you think of other types of solutions like cultural, social, economic, and anything else you can think of that would impact climate change.
Yeah.
The one thing I've been like kind of promoting is like if the government were to provide like monetary incentives for energy businesses to research and develop like newer and better ways for alternative energy, that would certainly be a better option than subsidizing the ones that already exist.
Okay, great. Incentives. I don't know if you heard that, but incentives to come up with better energy alternatives rather than subsidies for what already exists.
Yeah, right now we have a huge reliance on fossil fuels. So making that switch to renewable energy needs like that incentive.
Great. What were you going to say,
It's
Trina?
not as much about like renewable energy, but if the government would provide subsidies for farmers to like do cover crops,
Yeah.
you would have a living root and plant all year round, which would decrease, it would sequester more carbon to the ground, which would help as far as the carbon emissions.
Right. I don't know if you could hear that, but that was a good one. So giving incentives for farmers to plant cover crops so there would be more green space year round on the fields to help sequester carbon and also improve soil health.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that because there's a lot of things that cause climate change, it's not just one thing. There's also not just one solution for climate change. So it's important to come at climate change from a lot of different angles. So we're kind of running out of time. So I'd like for you to just think about this last few questions. So why do you care about climate change and what are you interested in learning more about? So kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we transition to our last activity. And I'll go ahead and share that screen. We have like 8 minutes. So exit out of this. There we go. Perfect.
So we've been discussing all of these like energy resources and impacts of climate change, but now we kind of want to like go back and think about starting with everyone where you live at home, thinking about like where do we even use energy? Like what do we use it for?
So we're kind of beginning our mind map with, at home, school, your hometown, and like these different levels of energy usage. So we're going to be starting with at home. So like your individual self and how you use energy at home. So we can go around popcorn style and just have you all suggest some energy uses.
Just throw them out at me, guys. What lights?
Cameras.
Nice. But okay, we got lights. What's a big one coming up? We're not using it right now. Okay, using energy for water. Do we need energy for water? Maybe for hot showers, right? But when the power goes off, we can still turn our water on, right? You can't. Oh yeah. You can't because you need a well. Okay, there we go. AC.
AC.
Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said poop.
Maybe flushing the toilet.
Yep, does take electricity.
Okay, there we go. Entertainment. Okay, good. That's good. Xbox. Wi-Fi. There we go. We have to have that. Refrigerators. That's good. Garage doors. Appliances. That'd be good. I like that. That's a big person word. Good job. Appliances. Yeah, you took all those things and just combined them into one.
What kinds of appliances?
Refrigerator, dishwasher, washer, dryer.
Yeah.
Coffee maker.
I like this mind map thing. This is cool. Coffee makers. Do you actually make have you even made a pot of coffee in your life? You really have? I can't believe it. You made it for yourself? Wow.
All right, now let's transition to school. So what kind of energy usages do we have in a school building?
Lights,
Wi-Fi.
computers, projectors, sure.
Toilet paper.
What you missed a pretty big one. Yes, speakers, but air conditioning and also cooking food, right? That's great. Heat. Science experiments gone wrong. I like that.
Yeah, so hopefully you all are seeing like there's a lot of similarities, right, between like schools and home. But now we're going to move to the state and think about there might be some like bigger things that energy is used for the whole state of Indiana.
Transportation, yeah, big, yeah, sure.
Sending water to their like city infrastructure.
Oh yeah, so utilities, yeah, great. So like our wastewater treatment, our landfills, right? Yeah.
Do we even have a landfill?
Our recycling. Yeah, all of ours goes to Wabash right there behind the funeral home.
Yeah, I like that you point out that recycling does take energy to like manage all that recycling, move it around, heat it, wash it. There's a lot of energy involved. That's a good point.
Does anyone know where Indiana gets most of their energy from?
Kentucky.
What source? Coal.
Yep.
Yep. Indiana is a big coal user. Now, you might not think about it when you turn on a switch to turn on your like house lights, but there's probably like a coal plant like a few miles away that you can't see where your electricity actually comes from.
But however, there are like some places like Indiana used to have special investments for people to put solar panels on their houses, although that bill was repealed a few years ago. But like there is the possibility like Indiana could have more solar energy and maybe some of the other renewable energies that you all will be learning about.
Oh no, there's our bell. Sorry, any party thought real quick?
I'll stay here, Sean. Don't worry.
I wish we could all just hang out.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just leave you with like the reminder that like the group presentations about energy resources are tomorrow. So we hope you enjoy learning about how your different energy resources, like they contribute to climate change or whether they don't, or whether maybe they're mixed, their drawbacks, their benefits. And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, see y'all later. Hey,
Yeah,
you guys hang on for a quick second. I'm gonna spray the desks real quick and then we could talk. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
Can we not?
All right, hey, sorry, I have to disinfect those desks afterwards before this other class comes in. So I'm gonna move my camera so I can see you guys and talk at the same time. I've got this nice camera that I can move around and it's great. But I can't always just see you guys. So there we go. Hey, great job. I thought it was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You never know how these things are going to go. And I really, appreciate the flexibility to like just kind of work on all this stuff together. And I think that I thought you both were so prepared. And I just had one of my students afterwards said, hey, can I get a link to that mind map? Because I'm going to use that. So
You're talking. It won't let us save it while we're in Zoom, but as soon as we leave our Zoom meeting, we'll be able to send it to you.
Okay, awesome. That's so cool.